Today I'm going to go in depth on Dzine AI, which is a powerful AI image generator along with a design editing suite. It combines these two to create something really unique and powerful for people wanting to create pretty much anything visual using AI or their design skills. So I'm going to go through the basics of how to use it, touch very much on the AI image generation along with all the other tools, and that way you get a great idea of how this platform works so that you can start confidently using it to create the images and graphics that you need to create. So let's jump on and get started. So I'm on the Dzine AI website. It used to be called Stylar AI. Very powerful tool. You can see here just a little bit of the capabilities, a bit of the editing, and you can go into some of these areas straight away if you want to just sort of use a very simple interface. But what we're going to do is actually get into the editor. So you can click here, start for free. I've already got an account, so I'm going to log in. So I'm logged into my account, and you see I've got some projects here. I can view them all here. I can import a PSD file as well, which is pretty cool. I haven't tried that out yet, but I've got a few different options here. You can see I've got plenty here, some places to start, which will sort of like set the canvas up for you with what you need. So there's a lot here you can work with if you don't want to actually go through and set it all up yourself. There's some cool, quick little options here that you can play with. But I'm going to come up because essentially what I want to show you, these are your credits. These are the AI credits. I got 5,800 and there's some tutorials and bits and pieces. But for now, you can see our project's at the top, but I'm going to start a new project to get started. This is my canvas. It's like a nice editing suite. You've got a whole bunch of your main tools here down the left. Your main image canvas is in the center. Here we have some results for when our AI images are generated, but we also have layers, which is really handy. It means we can actually change the order of objects on the page here. But if we want something different than this square, and also you notice this is an untitled project. I want to stop right there because while I was editing this video after a few days of work, they actually updated the UI just a little bit. Now, everything I'm going to show you ahead in the video is going to be more or less the same. It's just this top area here which has changed. So instead of this being in the center, like what we were just looking at, it's now off to the left and the dimensions are moved down the bottom. Otherwise, the options are all pretty much the same. These buttons over here are also all pretty much the same. However, we have the upload image button added. It's just a slightly different location. Otherwise, everything else we've gone through in the video is pretty much the same. I just wanted to say that to avoid any confusion before we go ahead. But coming back to changing our project settings, so I can click on this. I can change the name, so I just call it in-depth design test. I can change the dimensions, but first I might actually change the aspect ratio. I can go to custom if I want to create a custom aspect ratio here. So I can go something like 1920 by 1080, which is 16:9, but I can just click through and find one. Now, yes, the dimensions change as I change the aspect ratio. You can put in custom dimensions, but there is a bit of a limit on how high you can go. But I've got 16:9, I click apply, and we have our image. Now, I can use my hand tool here, but much like Photoshop, if I hold down space, I can just hold, click and drag. I can also just use my mouse wheel to go up and down. Now, it's easy enough to zoom in or out over here. And of course, we have our credits up here, so we know how far along we're going. We can export, undo, redo. You get the idea. We get our canvas set up and ready to start creating images. Now, as we mentioned, we're going to start with the AI image generator, specifically with text to image. So showing you how you can enter a basic text prompt to produce images in Dzine AI. Now, if you're looking to start generating images, there's two options over here, text to image and image to image. We'll touch on image to image soon. But with text to image, I simply click on this and I get a little interface that I can use. It says here, no style. So before we get into the nitty gritty, if I type in a basic prompt here, something basic, cyberpunk warrior with a glowing sword, and hit generate, you'll then notice after a minute or so, I get these images here. And as I hover over them, I get a little preview over here on the left, or I can just hover over these numbers to create variations of those images. So if I really like this one here with the double blade, but I want to make a few variations, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. If I want to make a variation of number 3, or even just download this image, I can. But I'm going to come down to variation 3 and click on that, and it will generate some variations similar to that image. And I've got these variations here. I click, if I want to put this on the canvas, I double click on this, and it's added the image onto the canvas. But for now, I'm actually going to get rid of it because there's a little bit more to this text to image than what we're seeing. I'm actually going to just remove some of these words. I'll just say a warrior with a glowing sword, because I don't want it to be too stylized, because one of the things we can do is pick a style from here. So I have, for instance, we have Flux, which is a new AI art image model. You can see based on the images what kind of style we can expect to get. So if I want Neo Tokyo Noir, I click on that and I can change the style intensity to demonstrate how much of the style I want to affect the image. So we'll keep it at this setting for now and hit generate. And now we have this style of image. If I add one to the canvas, you can see how it's gone for that style similar to what we've got here. And of course we could try many other styles. I'm going to actually just change the aspect ratio so we can more clearly see. Move that into the center. I'm going to choose a different style. We have apocalyptic photography. And again, I can choose the same prompt, hit generate, and now we have these very nice images here. And notice as I go, I can scroll down and view all the previous images I've generated. I can also hit the bin button to get rid of them if I want to manage that a bit better. But you can see how we managed to apply these styles to the images and get a very consistent look. And this is a very simple prompt. Ideally, you would want to get more descriptive with things like the scene, the lighting, color, and location if you really want to get the best result from your prompt. And also, we have advanced settings here, such as a negative prompt. So this guy, maybe we don't want any facial hair, so we add a negative prompt. Facial hair or beard, mustache, and that way we can remove any items from the prompt and it will do its best to not include them. It won't be perfect, but it'll be pretty good. Seed number, a little bit more advanced. The idea is that the seed number is the number that generates the start of the image. So if you have the exact same seed number and all the settings are identical, you should get pretty much the same image each time. So it's a way of using it to sort of find adjustments in your prompt. I wouldn't be too concerned about that right now if you're not quite sure what that means. But before we go ahead, what I want to do is I'm going to generate, we've got different style intensities here. I'm going to bring the style intensity right down and I'm going to generate this. And then I'm going to generate one at a few different levels to show you the difference between style intensity. And as we cycle through these varying levels of strength, you can start to see that it introduces more flames to the image as we get the strength up. Once we get to a strength of about 4 to 6, it tends to be a little less noticeable, but still has an impact. And if you put them all side by side all together, you can see how they sort of like slowly merge into that flaming sort of style, and then it sort of just intensifies from there. I would also like to point out that after you've generated images, if you need some settings, if you hover over the little eye icon here, you can see the prompt, the negative prompt, the style, the seed, and even the style intensity. And you can copy these and paste them into your image generator if that's the way you want to go. So now you know how text to image works. We're going to sort of expand on that a bit by moving on to image to image. This is where you can upload an image into the AI image generator and use it as part of what influences the image output. So again, we're back in our interface, but instead of coming over here to text to image, we're going to come down to image to image. And you'll notice a few extra settings. And some of this we're not going to worry about face match for now. We'll come back to that because it's similar to what we see down here. But for now, we have no style and we have a prompt, but we have a few extra features because this is much the same as the original. So first thing I'm going to do is I need to actually get an image on to my canvas to use for image to image. So I click upload image. I have an image of this elf cosplayer from pexels.com. I upload that. I position the image. And because I had an empty canvas, it has resized the canvas to fit. But if I want to change it, I can come in here and change it back. But for now, we'll leave it as it is. And like before, we want to pick a style. And I like the idea of going for something which conflicts with the image a bit. So let's go for toon face. Keeping in mind that I can simply go from here. We can add a prompt. So if I add something simple like a lady elf with pointy ears, red hair, and holding 2 knives, I have toon face turned on, and the style intensity by default is actually pretty high for this. So if I hit generate, you'll notice we have some images looking very similar to our image. If I drag this over here, you can see it's very similar. And if I was to add one of these in, such as this one here, you can see the difference it has I will delete this. It's actually a very similar pose. I can undo to bring it back. It sort of holds up pretty tightly. But we have a few more options that we can work with. Keeping in mind that if I keep this here, this will become the new image reference. So I'm going to delete that, position it back, and we can zoom back out. The style intensity is pretty strong, but I can actually change the structure match as well. So if I bring that structure match right down to 0, and we once again generate a few to compare, I'll show you just how closely the structure is aligned with our original image. And now starting with 0, you notice these two images don't really look that alike at all in regard to structure and how they're laid out. But then you move up to point 3 and it's much closer. And as we keep going, it gets closer and closer to the original image, especially up to 7, which is pretty high. It's starting to look almost the same. But when we go up to that full structure strength, it's pretty much spot on, too close and kind of not really in line with the style as much. But I also want to demonstrate that now you have kind of two sliders that you can essentially play with. Let's bring our image structure back to a very high but not full range over here, because we want to keep it pretty close. However, what happens when we then do the same process with style intensity? Going from 0 to full, we can see how much the image changes from its original through to the new style. And now you can see with the style intensity down, it looks a bit bright, a little bit cheap and nasty, and it slowly improves as you pick up the style intensity. So style intensity doesn't necessarily turn the style on or off as much as just kind of adjusts how well that intensity or the style is applied. I think it's a matter of experimentation to see if you can get a feel for it. But you can see how easily you can use this as a tool for taking one image and converting it to another style of image. So you can see how that works. However, you might also want to check out some of these other options. There's things like Color Match Advanced, where we get the same options as we did before. But with Color Match, we can try and get the color to match pretty closely to our original image. And we're going to use Color Match, so we can turn that on to try and match the color closely to our image. I'm going to bring these back to about center to try and give the AI a little bit of freedom. And then we're going to generate another image to see just how closely it matches. So now we have these options here, and if you can see, the color matches pretty closely. What I'm quickly going to do, I've quickly changed the canvas size here, and putting these side by side, you can see how the colors are much closer to the original. So that's a pretty good option if you need the colors to match pretty closely. The ability to change styles. You can also change the prompt if you need to change a few bits and pieces. You can get a much better result. But as I said before, bring this back over, is that image to image works much like the others. You can go into Tune Face or choose any other style you want to get a completely different result. There's a whole bunch of styles here to choose from, and we're going to touch on that soon. But being able to upload an image and use it as reference for an image, you can see from here to here just how close and powerful a tool like that is if you just need something to match up a bit closer. Now, there are a few things we can do to work on enhancing the face, or there's face match. We're going to sort of touch on those as we go a little bit later. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into using some of the styles of Dzine AI, including how to create your own style, even using the style learner. Very powerful features that allow you to take a little bit more control over how your image looks using the image generator. So we're back in with a new project, and I've created a close-up of a man's face, grizzled and tough. We have this guy's face right here. Now, as I mentioned, we come up here, we have a bunch of styles that we can choose from. We have a style swapper, so you can swap a style from a reference image, or a style learner, where it learns styles from several images. But first of all, I just want to show you just some of the impact you can have with some of these styles. For example, if I change to Flux. Flux has been created by some people who used to work at Stability AI, and it's a new open source model. So to show you a bit of what we can create, I'm just going to put together some images to show you the difference in style using this same prompt. You can see how starting with no style, then changing to Flux, we get a different looking image. Or you have Sticker Pop or Eerie Realm to get a very particular style, such as Floral Tattoo, or even Pixel Art. Apocalyptic Horror, or if you want an anime style like Narrative Film or Neon Futurism. It's very easy to pick a style, black and white old school, inked realism, or even coloring book to nail down a particular look or style to your images. Now, as you can see here, I've barely touched the full catalog, which is mind-bogglingly huge. So you can go do, if you're looking for illustration, you can go down through these categories to pick something that aligns with what you're after. They have an anime section. I know a lot of AI art people are interested in anime styles, 3D, so you've got some 3D style images here, things such as logos or icons. A lot of these would be great for using in vector art, which we're going to cover in a little while. So it's pretty cool. But if I decide I want to come back to all styles and scroll up to the top, I could choose the style swapper. And that means if I click on that, I can upload an image to use. I grabbed something like this sort of bronzy image. I also grabbed off pexels.com. It'll process it. You notice up here it says custom style. Again, I can click on here and go to my styles, and I've got my custom style here. And I've got a few other ones I've used in the past also. So it actually does keep your custom styles, and you can use any kind of image to kind of match that look, but it keeps them all here under custom styles. I can also click here to edit it, so I can call it bronze metal, enter, click on that, and now I have my bronze metal style here. So using my close-up of the man's face, grizzled and tough, I can hit generate. It's created these images where it's tried to match that style. And again, I can crank that style intensity up to full, hit generate again, and try a few different levels if I want to compare. Again, we have a style strength of 0, so it doesn't apply to our image at all. Crank it up to 0.2, we can see a little bit more of that style starting to seep in. And watch it slowly creep in over 4, 6, and 8, till it finally gets to 1, and it looks like almost a complete bronze person, very similar to the image in our reference. So that's a pretty simple and effective way to create a style, but there's also the style learner. Once again, I click on the style section up here and go to style learner, where I can upload several images to get an effect. I upload 3 to 10 images. I click upload images. I have all these images of kind of like graffiti and street art on walls, and some of them, there's not a huge amount of consistency within the art other than the fact that it's street art. So I've decided to go with these 7 images to see what results we can get with the style learner. So our images have been uploaded. We give the style a name. I'm going to call it new street art. I come down here, I click train. And you see it'll take about 20 minutes, but it will train that art, so now I can use it in my image. So I come back in 20 minutes time, and after a little time has passed, we have our new street art style. I click on that, keep everything the same. I'm going to bring the style intensity up a bit because I want to maximize as much of this style as I can. I hit generate to see what results we get. And there you can see we've been able to produce some results that kind of match up with our style. They're a bit funny, but I think it's really matched up the style pretty well. But if we're going to really take advantage of that style, since it is more of a graffiti street art type thing, let's change the prompt to something more suitable. I now have street art of a man's face on a brick wall, grizzled, tough expression, graffiti style artwork. Now, if I just put that in with another prompt, I would probably get some street art or graffiti art style, but by combining it with my images, I get to reinforce that a little bit better. I'm going to hit generate. And now we've taken that a step further and got something very similar to the images we uploaded in style, the brick wall, the bright colors. So you can use that pretty effectively to train and create your own style. We're going to look into some of the vector features of Dzine AI now, not just converting to vector, but some of the best practices for creating vector images so that you get a good result when using these tools. Now you can generate images to vectorize. However, I'm going to start off by showing you can also upload an image, such as this one here. Something that has very flat colors, flat simple colors and shapes that you think will work in a vector format, which is mostly shapes and sort of like created with mathematical lines, so you can scale them up to any resolution and print them. And something like this is perfect. Cartoony, flat colors, simple shapes. All I need to do, once I have this image selected on my canvas, is hit this little SVG button. I have a few options here, shapes and cutouts or shapes on top of each other. I prefer shapes on top of each other as this will cut out all the various shapes around each other and sometimes can cause little sort of lines between the shapes. So I generally go stack shapes on top of each other. The rest of these settings are not really that important, but generally speaking, I have a video that goes on this a little bit deeper, not a lot deeper, but I'll pop a link to that in the description below. Otherwise, we just hit vectorize. Then after a minute, we have our vector file here. If I hover over it, you can see a preview, but I'm going to download it and we'll have a quick look at it up close. So I've opened the file up in Illustrator and you can see it's selecting the shapes. There are things I can do like click and change the color. If I am a vector artist or understand how to use Illustrator, it's actually pretty easy to go and edit this kind of file. But what's cool is because it's vector, if I zoom in, you'll notice there is no loss of quality. This means an image like this can be very easily converted to vector and printed at almost any size. Now it's not perfect because it is an automatic process. You do get a few bits and pieces here, but ultimately they're very small. That means an image like this will be sharp and crisp right to the edge, no matter what size you print it. But what are some of the best practices for creating imagery with AI that we want to convert to vector? Now the first and perhaps most important tip is whether you're using image to image or text to image. And remember, you can upload images and convert them to a vector style, but we'll start with text to image. And when we pick our style, we want to find something that appears flat, has those simple shapes, so we can choose like a vector style. Now, if you go to illustration, you'll find sticker pop is perfect for something like this. Tropical pop, retro noir, but something like impressionist here, which is more like a photograph, not really going to be suitable. So you want to go through, we have sketchbook sticker, and find something that will work. There'll be some other things in here that you might find work better than expected. Inked realism might actually work a bit better than expected. I haven't tried it, but you might want to experiment to see what results you get. Logo and icon, these will work very well because logos are generally pretty simple by nature. Not so much the 3D ones, but negative space, that should work pretty well. The other thing too is there are styles like flamenco dance, which doesn't look cartoony, but has flat shapes and colors. And now I type in a prompt. I have the face of a vampire about to eat. Now I don't want to just stop there. For one, I want to make sure my style intensity is up so I get that nice flat color. But on top of that, I want to reinforce that vector style. So I can just simply type in vector art. And if I really want to go to the next level, flat colors, simple shapes, and I can even type in logo or clip art. These are some of the words you can use to create vector images. So choosing the right style that has flat colors, simple vector style, and then adding those vector phrases and words to your prompt to help reinforce those flat colors, simple shapes. Now, once again, I hit generate to see what results we get with the image. And check out these results. If I hover over, you'll see the colors are all pretty flat and simple. And you got some pretty cool images. I really like this one here. I double click to add to the canvas. Once I have it, I click SVG. Same settings as before. We hit vectorize. Now we have our SVG. I'm just going to hover over it. And we can see that it looks pretty good, at least from a distance anyway. But before we go in and get too caught up checking that out, what happens if we have an image that is a little more photographic? Like this. Let's say I want to make this image more of a vector. First, I'm going to change my canvas size to fit this just for the sake of the video. Now, this would not vectorize well. As a matter of fact, if I hit SVG, you can see the image is produced from a distance. Probably doesn't look too bad, but we hover over and you can see it's still created a vector image, but it's a little bit messy. So what we might want to do is take our photo, head to image, choose a style, maybe something like story time, add in a prompt. I have an old man's grizzled face, vector art, illustration, flat colors, simple shapes. We've got our style. We bring up that intensity so we get those nice flat colors. Keep the structure match about where it is. We can choose color match, but I'll leave it off for now. I'm going to hit generate. And now we have our images. Now this first one, probably not my cup of tea. This one, maybe this one is going to be our best bet. Double click to add to canvas. I hit SVG to vectorize. Now we have our SVG file over here on the right. So I bring it into Illustrator. And you can see we have these nice simple shapes. And because the outlines were a little rough in the image style, we get this kind of roughed up, less super clean look, which is more to do with the original image than the actual vectorizer itself. But overall, a pretty good result. And the other thing is you don't have to use these exactly as vectors. You can also import them into something like Photoshop as a really high resolution base for digital art as well. Now, I also want to touch on a few more design features because it's not just about imagery. There's also things like text and sort of other tools you can use to sort of create more powerful designs using Dzine AI. So I'm here again with a fresh canvas and I'm going to upload an image for us to play with. Again, with another image from Pexels. I open, and I'm going to hold down spacebar just to sort of position that on the screen. And I have an image here I can work with. So one thing I can do is I can use remove background on this image. So if I click that, you can see it removes the background. And also, if I decide I want to upload something else to pop in the background itself, so I can grab one of these images that we used before to train our model. I can pop that here too. Now, this is where it gets interesting. I'm going to make this the full size of the canvas. And I come over here to layers. Now, I'm going to get into some of the tools soon, but straight away, we have 2 image objects. I have 2 layers. I can grab this layer and just drag it above, and now our guy is in front of the wall. I can resize him, move him how I want to. I can even take this bottom layer, and where it says 100% here, bring the opacity down to make it semi-transparent. So that's pretty cool. And obviously I can rename these layers, so I can actually double click on layer 2, call it background, double click on layer 1, call it man, hit enter. And if I want to hide them, I just hit the tick, turn them on or off. So straight away you can see now the fact that we have layers and that we can cut out objects opens up a ton of possibilities, and we haven't even touched on a whole bunch of the other possibilities with this too, especially once we start combining this with AI. Now I'm going to bring the opacity of the background up to full, and we have a window here, but maybe I don't want it there. I can click my background layer, remove object, and draw a lasso around that object, in this case the window. Click remove, and it will actually use AI to generate some options. You can see here we have a few different options we can choose from. This one looks the best, so I'll double click, and now we have our new background. I come back to my layers, and you'll see it's added this as a separate image. So if I want to, I can turn it off to go back to the original, or go back. So I've removed this object from the actual image. And by clicking any of these images, I get this bar that follows us around, removing objects, remove the background. We've already touched on SVG for vectorizing, but I can also click on an object like this and crop it if I want to as well. Although we have another object behind it, so I'll turn that off, go back to crop, and I can crop this image down, hit done, and I actually can remove that. So if I wanted to, I could just resize that beyond the bounding box to cut off what I don't need. However, maybe I want this to be inset a little bit, like this, with the man sort of sitting outside of that. I can also select, so circle around an area I want to select on the active layer. So maybe I select this guy's glasses, and you can see I can use some other AI editing tools here as well. For one, I can just duplicate this, and then I have a layer with just those eyes. I'm going to click undo. So I'm going to reselect the glasses. I can hit remove, which is going to remove the object. I can hit edit. So if I hit edit, I can do a prompt-based edit to this area. So I can say sunglasses, very dark shade. Instead of no style, I'm going to choose realistic. And as a control method, kind of like image prompting, I can have it rely on the prompt more, the image more, or balanced. I'm going to go with balanced because I want the sunglasses to be kind of in the same place as the glasses. I hit generate. And I get some pretty nifty options here of what I can choose. I like these ones here, so I'll double click. And I've put sunglasses on my character. However, it has added a little bit of gray around there. So what I'm going to do is these 4 tools up here, I'm going to go back to the move arrow, back to my layers. I'm going to select, because I've now got another full man layer with those sunglasses on. So I'm going to turn this one off underneath. I'm going to grab my select tool and just select that gray area. A little bit rough. I can just hit delete to clear it out. If I turn this one back on, it'll kind of neaten up those edges a bit. So you can see how by simply clicking the object, we get a whole bunch of options. Now the tool we use to generate the sunglasses is called Local Edit, which is over here. I can click on that again to get this back. Now I have a lasso tool, but I can also use my brush. So if I wanted to select, say, the beard, I can do that and just type in a really long beard and hit generate. You see I have some options here for a longer beard, but I'm not going to use those yet. I'm going to clear all to clear my selection. We have the lasso, the brush, and all the options over here. There's also auto. If I want to click on something, it will auto select it. Now, if you want to click on multiple objects, you can click union or subtract. So if I hold union and I start to click more, like his hair, it will add to my selection. However, if I click on subtract and then click on the sunglasses, it will remove that selection. But of course, I can always come up here, rainbow colored hair, generate, You notice I have some options here also for rainbow hair. Let's double click. Now we get our guy here. Now again, I go to our layers. We have him here. He's in the full image. I'm actually just going to turn that off for now. But also we have insert object. So we have local edit and also insert object. So I can use this to upload an object and insert it into an area. So I click on upload. I pick this bird here, click open. He'll upload the bird and I just need to choose where I want the bird to go. So I can pop the bird here by selecting over roughly where the ghost is. Hit generate. You see it's generated some imagery similar to the bird. I double click. Now we have a bird in the background. There's a few funny mistakes with it, but as far as inserting objects goes, I think simple objects probably best in this scenario. But I want to go back to my layers. And I'm going to just turn off all this and just go back to my man here, because this is where I think things get really interesting. I can go text to image. I'm going to choose from my styles. I'm going to choose flux. And I'm going to type in ancient Shaolin temple, click generate. We've got one with the crowd, one without. I can double click. I've added that to the canvas, which now means I can drag this behind our man. And I now have an AI background with a photograph in the foreground, which I think is a pretty cool combination. And of course, if I want to take that a step further, I could image to image. And with anything I'm about to show you while we're designing here, you could design up a complete mock-up and then use image in image to render one complete image based off that mock-up. But for now, we've covered the bar here that every time we select an object, we have some options to go with it, including the AI editing options over here. But up the top, we have, for one, just a simple click and move. We have our hand grip for moving around, or you just hold down spacebar. But we also have brush here. I can click draw on a blank canvas and it will produce a blank white layer that I can draw on. So if I'm an artist, I could draw something here again to use with image to image, like Mr. Burns here, and I could basically go from there. But I don't really want that. I'm going to click done, and then I'm just going to turn that off. I can also simply delete this layer by right-clicking and going delete. But this time, I go back to brush and I'll draw on current canvas, and I can start drawing something here as well. Like maybe again, I draw a bird, a very bad bird, but I can draw things like just lines if I want to. I can draw all sorts of stuff in here. I can use my eraser to fix some of this up, to remove. I have a stroke style here. I can bring that up nice and large. I'll go back to my brush, stroke style, bring that up, change the color here to red, and I can draw away as I see fit. So I can also use this with a different level of opacity, bring that down. So I could draw rosy cheeks on him if I wanted to, and make some basic drawing edits like that. Not the most impressive part of the Dzine AI tool suite, but still pretty cool. For now, I'm done with that. I have this layer here and I can turn that off, which I will because the drawings are not that good. But it shows you what you can do. Little touch-ups, little things if you want to touch them up before using, say, image to image, that can be a very powerful tool. But the text options give us the ability to basically use this as a design tool. I click and now I can type, such as holiday at the temple. Once again, I click my dude, I move him over, I have some text here. And as usual, you get the usual font options. There's a few sort of free fonts in here. So there's not a ton of options, but there's enough here to sort of get the job done. So I can choose something like Anton, nice and thick so it stands out against the background. Obviously center, right align, left align. I can also change the font size here pretty easily and just resize as I see fit. Or again, we can choose the color, like yellow. If I select one line of text and change that color, it changes the whole lot. So if you want to, say, bring the lines closer together or change the color of one line, I would recommend getting rid of this. Then you can simply duplicate, right-click, duplicate the layer, bring it down, type in, choose your color, then you can simply duplicate and move that way. And I can go to something else, like white again. Also, you got things like bold, italics, the usual bits and pieces you would find with any text editor. So that is pretty handy. And just remember, you can use that as part of an image to image. However, if you finish your image, this is a great way. If you hold down Shift, you can select multiple objects, resize, put them here. If I want to be a little fancy, I've moved my man to here and just move him in front of the text. And now he's got a little shoulder over the text for a nice nifty effect. And again, I'm holding down Shift to select multiple objects. And I can set this up like this. And keep in mind, at any point you can come in and actually download your layers individually. So that's pretty handy. But otherwise, there's not really many effects. You can merge these layers into a single image. But one thing I also like is to actually just try something like, I can take this one here, duplicate it. I'm just going to move it slightly up. But then I'm going to come down to the original again, make the color black. And I can kind of fake a drop shadow. So I do the same again, duplicate, move it up, go to the original, make it black, create a drop shadow. So it'd be cool once they start to introduce more effects to the text, but it's just a basic editor. I think this is more targeted at image editing than design. However, you can still get a lot done with this, and it's probably going to be not too bad for things like social media graphics if you just need some basic text and objects on the screen. But again, I'm going to go through my process. And I've changed the wrong one, so I can switch the order around. And we have our little design here, Holiday at the Temple. So you sort of get the idea. There's some basic editing there, the way you can cut out objects, move objects. It'd be great for compiling things for a scene. And like I said, we can finally come back over here. Let's go to image, type in, we can have a man in front of a temple, text, Holiday at the Temple to the left. Now, the models here aren't really set up for text. I would use Flux to generate text. However, this can just be a bit of fun. Let's go 3D render, bring the structure match right up, hit generate. We've got a cool 3D style, and you can see how it's referenced the text. It hasn't nailed it perfectly on every single one. We get something like this, and we've been able to basically create like a 3D style of text because we've had the structure match nice and high. 3D style of guy here, and if we want to play with it, we can also bring the opacity down and sort of bring out some of the original, although it doesn't look too good on his face. But you sort of get the idea. It's a pretty nifty tool for creating images or creating base images for image to image. But there's one more tool I want to touch on, and I'm going to go straight to a new project. So I have a new project because we've got a whole bunch of layers in that other one, and we understand how the tools work, but there's one more thing I want to touch on, which is expand. So if I upload an image, and we got our guy here, I'm going to change the aspect ratio, and I'm going to resize this image to fit. But what if I want to see more of this image? I want it to fill the rest. I can go expand. And I've got this image here, and I can simply drag these handles out and extend around the image. I add a bit of a description. Going back to the idea of temples, we have a warrior standing in a flaming temple. I hit generate. And again, we get some options. This one's probably the best. I double click. And now I have a much bigger image that I can use on the canvas. Now if I go back to my layers, I can basically turn this one off and just see how much extra image I've been able to add. So that's pretty handy. There's a lot of really cool tools there to edit your images and improve what you've got on your canvas. Now, Dzine AI has some really powerful face features. These allow you to take images and repair faces, switch faces, and do a fair bit in regards to faces and characters using Dzine AI. I have yet another image here from pexels.com, and we're going to go back to image to explore the face match tool. Now I'm going to add in a prompt of a cyberpunk man with robotic elements. I pick a style. I'm going to run with neo-futurism. And now we have our image, and we have our prompt of our cyberpunk man, robotic elements. I'm going to keep the style intensity about the same. Might bring the structure match up. I'm not concerned about color match because I want to change the colors, but I am going to turn on face match because I want to match the face in the photo. So we should get a new image with the same face as our character here. I'm going to hit generate, and we have our 4 images, and you can see the face has been matched on pretty much all of them. So I'm going to pick one to add to the canvas. I think it's done a pretty good job. But if I take a closer look at these images, we have our original face. The color is actually quite different, but you can see quite clearly the features of the face. When we switch to the generated image, you can see how closely it's been matched up. There's quite a seamless transition, despite the fact that the image itself is very different. Place them side by side, and you can see just how effective this face match tool is. So that's one of the really powerful tools with image to image is face match in Dzine AI. But that's not the only thing. Now I've come back to this project here because it auto saves the projects as you go. And I've got this 3D image, which was created from this reference image on the left. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and there's a few issues like the eyes, the face, that kind of thing. I'm going to go to face repair. I click on face repair, and I just highlight the face. And then I just give it a description. I have a red-headed woman's face, Pixar style 3D cartoon character. I can choose how much I want to preserve the original face. Because we want it to be mostly the same, I'll keep this fairly high and hit generate. You may also notice that we've exited this project, come back, and the history of images it has created is down the right here, very specific to that project. And that's pretty cool on a project by project basis. You're not going to get lost trying to find the images you want. But now we have our face. And it looks a lot more natural, especially this one here. I double click, go to our layers. It's produced the full image, but you can see if I turn it off, the face has improved and looks a lot more natural. But what if we switch to another project? So I have this image I created in Flux, and it actually looks pretty good. It's a photograph. I'll go back to face repair, and I'm going to select the face. And I'm going to bring preserve down a little bit because what I want to do is add in a few different characteristics like I've added a thin nose, brown eyes, and rosy cheeks. I'm going to bring it down another step just to be sure. And I'm going to hit generate. And you see here, it has changed that face. It's using a different model, so we do get a slightly different effect, but the eyes are more of a brown color. So I click on this, I can add it in, and we've got a different face. However, maybe it's not quite what we want. Maybe we wanted it to look closer to the original face, but just simply have a few different colors. Let's go back to our layers. We'll turn that off, click on our original face. I'm going to put preserve original face up quite high. I'm going to get rid of the nose. We have brown eyes, rosy cheeks. Select her face again. Hit generate. We've got a few different results again. I'll stick with this first one. Go to my layers, and if I switch between the two, you notice it's browned the eyes up a little bit. But we are still on preserve original face, so it's still keeping pretty close. So we might need to dial it back one more notch. Select our face again. Generate. Again, we've got a few options. This one has the brownest eyes. We double click, and I can compare again. The eyes have gone a lot more brown. She's got those rosy cheeks, so the face repair has worked pretty well. And as with any AI art platform, you may need to make some adjustments to get an image like this. So that's a pretty smooth transition again, pretty handy tool. Place them side by side and you can see just how closely it's been able to match. But we also have the face swap feature, which we're going to touch on as well. Back to our warrior here. We're going to go to face swap and I'm going to upload an image of my face because maybe I decide that I want to look like a big warrior. Hit upload. I have this image of me. Click open. So it's picked my face. I hit generate and it says there's multiple faces detected. So it can be a little bit sort of sensitive, but I definitely want this face to be changed. So if you have multiple faces in the photo, you can choose which face you want it to affect. Click confirm. Here you see it's popped my face in a few different styles on this image. This one doesn't really work well, but this one here does actually look a bit like me. And what's really cool is the way it's sort of mimicked a lot of that lighting. It's done a pretty good job. And that actually looks like me. Looks a little bit alien if you look at it, but if you were to do this to a photo or something else, you get some pretty good results. So that's a very simple and easy to use tool, but very powerful. Now we're also going to check out product background. I'll show you exactly how that works and how you could use it as a designer if you need to sort of create backgrounds for your products. So I've popped this photo of a camera I found on Pexels here. The first thing we do before we can actually use product background is I have to remove the background of this image. So I click remove background and it's removed the background of the image. I then come down to product background and we have a few options. We can type a prompt or choose a template. I can add a plain white background with a shadow, which is pretty much what we just removed. But what if I wanted something like this blue color here? I click on that and we get this background here. And it's kind of treated a bit like a glass. I really like the effect it's had on this one. This is probably one of the better ones, I guess, but you can see how well it's kind of put that together. But coming off, I'm going to come back down and we're going to choose one of these mood. We also have wood or golden. So I'll try a bunch of these and I'll show you some of the results. We'll start off with wood. So you see how it's nice, clean product photo, and wood has worked out pretty well. The shadows are pretty convincing. I've decided to go on with the beach, and the way it's kind of dug a bit of sand around the camera, I thought was interesting. Also, we've got mountains. I've got two good mountain images. We've got this one here with a little bit of rock, this one here with another rock and like some autumny type leaves. I then tried sunset, which didn't work as well as the others I thought, but still pretty cool the way it's piled up some rocks underneath the product. But there's more than just mood. If I scroll down, we have things like surfaces we can try, countertops, living room, kitchen, all these different options. And again, I'm going to pop a few of these on the screen so I can show you how they look. So starting off with the surfaces, I decided to go with red and black. They sort of create some nice sort of studio looking images. But the countertops add another level of luxury to that. So this is a marble countertop, and we also have a green marble countertop. And the way it's added the reflection on there and everything is really, really well done. Also a dark wood countertop, another level of luxury I think looks pretty good. But moving on, we have the kitchen. This is a futuristic kitchen, has a like nice silver look again. Convincing reflection. Then we've got like an industrial kitchen. The way it allows you to pick a room, I think, is really good for product designers. This is a minimalist kitchen, so you can move from room to room like a living room. We've got a classic living room, once again, solid reflection, and you can choose other types of living rooms like Mediterranean or even Scandinavian if you want to get a really cool impact for a product that's designed to go into a living room. They also have some bathroom options. This is a farmhouse bathroom, again, works pretty well. But then also things like silk. We've got black silk here, and then we also have green silk and also white silk, along with some brown linen. So a different type of background for different types of products. So that's pretty handy to have. But we can also come over here to prompt. And there's already some bits and pieces here we can choose from. But otherwise, I can say my product's sitting on a hot barbecue grill with onions and sausages, which doesn't really work for a camera, but I thought I'd give it a try anyway. So let's see what results we get. So I've got some unique results to say the least. A camera sitting on a barbecue is cooking up some sausages. Some of the meat looks a little funny in some of these, but overall it's pretty cool that you can prompt this stuff and it will kind of angle it around the camera, pop a drop shadow on there and do a pretty good job. So I tried a few other things, such as on a pile of old dead cameras with rolls of film. Also on a pile of skulls with fire and ice. I really like this one, very dramatic. And also on lava, or on a floating rock surrounded by lava. And then also on a woman's hand with a wedding ring where she's wearing the camera like a wedding ring. I just thought this one was kind of funny. So it doesn't have to be just this one type of product. I've tried putting cars and people and all sorts into these images and got some pretty good results. So it's a pretty handy sort of use of like what a generative fill type fill tool is. So great for creating product photos and something really handy if that's something you need to do a lot of. And now we've covered a lot in this video. So we're starting to get toward the tail ends of things. I'm going to start to look at Enhance and show you how you can use that to improve your images with Dzine AI. Now Enhance can be used in a number of ways. It can be used on the images you generate or photos you upload. We'll start off with a photo to show you what I mean. This is another Pexels photo that if I zoom in, you can see that the quality is not great. I head up to 75%. It's quite pixelated. I can go over here, click Enhance, and what it will do is kind of re-render the image at a higher resolution. Now the strength, if I want to change how much detail is sort of developed using the AI, I can crank that up. For now, I'm going to leave it at default and just click Enhance. And it will take a few minutes to enhance the image. So you can see here, we've got a before and after, how it's enhanced that photo. And you can see it has changed some of the details because there is a little bit of strength in there because it is using AI to basically regenerate an image while using the reference. But this is great for artwork, and if you're using this for portraits, it's probably not perfect, but you can always bring that strength back down a bit. But for the sake of the video, I'm going to bring it up to high, although we also have portrait mode. So we'll turn that on, and that way it removes the strength, and we'll click Enhance to see what results we get this time. And now with portrait mode applied, you see the upscale is more true to the face. So that is something to consider when using this feature with photos of faces. But we can also apply this to some of our AI art, such as this image we created earlier. One thing I could do is, again, I can zoom out a bit, just kind of enlarge this to get like a close-up on the face. I zoom back in, and I'm going to go to 100% because we can see here it's just a little bit fuzzy. So I go back out I'm going to go to 75% and click the image and go to Enhance. We'll start again with a strength of low, and then we'll try different levels beyond that. I click Enhance. So I've enhanced this image at various different levels. One at the lowest, and we sort of move up to the highest level over here on the left. And by taking this sort of before and after slider, we can go back and forth and compare the difference. And we can see in the face, we've got a couple of buck teeth here, but otherwise we've got some improvements on the sword. It's much sharper and crisper. And you can see how we've been able to bring up that resolution, even add a little bit of detail in the belt down the bottom here. Move up to the next one, and it's actually a step sharper again. We still get the teeth, but a little bit more detail, a little bit more contrast, and just a sharper image overall. Moving across again. Another image, a little bit sharper. The details are a little bit crisper. So instead of it being as soft, so I go to here, you can see as we come through how it sharpens up until we get to the highest setting, which has a lot more detail and is a lot sharper again. So you can see how we can use that to actually enhance our AI art and get things looking a little sharper that way. Now I want to mention, because I haven't mentioned this yet, is that obviously as we click on each one, we can download them individually. Or when we find the one we like, I'm going to choose the highest setting, place it on the canvas, and now it's there for us to edit. And of course I can turn that on or off to compare directly here. But keep in mind, if you find that most of the image is pretty good, but you're still not happy with, say, the way the mouth looks, you can always go in for your local edit, select the part we want to fix. Now, this has also been generated with a particular style. So under Style, I find that style. I can go to Recent to see which ones I've used recently. Apocalyptic Horror. Bring that style intensity up, and I can just add in a prompt like teeth, mouth. I'm going to go control method. I'm going to go balanced, but also image could work. We'll see what happens when we go balanced. I'll hit generate, and I've got a few options here for the mouth, and I can preview them on the screen. I think this one looks the best. So now his teeth look a little more natural. I'll go to my layers. I can switch between the two and see that looks a little more natural. But also, if we go back to results where we got the teeth here, we also have the enhancements that we were able to create down the side here as well. So you can go through and add those at any time. You can click on the information and see we have an enhancement strength of 0.4. So everything in the project is going to be in your results area here, and we've managed to fix the area we didn't like. And now we can basically proceed with this image as we see fit. Now finally, if you're looking to export or save your work, I'm also going to cover that here to give you a better idea of how that works. So we're back here with our guy with his fixed teeth. And if we're happy with this image, we want to export it. It seems pretty straightforward. We can go up here to export. Now what's cool is, of course, if we were creating vector sort of images, we converted some things to vectors, we can save an SVG file. For now, I'm going to stick with a PNG or a JPEG, but PNG with less compression. But we also have the ability to upscale from here as well. So we can just download this at the native resolution of 1536 by 1152. But I'm going to upscale it by 4 to get the largest image I can. And I can add a watermark, which is usually, I think, the design watermark. If you have a free account, I think you have to leave that turned on. But also, if I come back to 1, you'll notice I can download a zip with the 4 layers. So if I actually want to download all the layers individually, I can just download this and have all the layers download in one hit. And that can be pretty handy if you generate a lot of images and pop a lot of different things on the canvas. If you want all those separate, this could be a nice, easy way to do that. But we're going to go with our 4x, and we're going to upscale and download that image. And once the upscale is finished, it'll appear down here. I hit download, and I can save that image. So this is our image at its original size, 1536 by 1152, and I've zoomed in so we can see it's a little bit pixelated. When I switch to the 4x upscale, it's sharpened up and smoothed out those edges. Now it hasn't added a bunch of detail to it, but it has kept very true to the original image whilst also cleaning it up so that the edges are smoother. So it makes for a really nice, very subtle upscaler. So that's pretty handy because you can come in here and download this upscale at any point you want to, or just export up here again. But also you can go to your layers at any point, click on the 3 vertical dots, and you can download the layer individually. So you get a few different options for downloading the images that you create in Dzine. And of course, if I head out I've got all my projects here that I've been working on. I click on View All Projects. I'll go back to this old man image here. Again, I can export, do the same thing. So I can come back at any time and work on that. So we also have our SVG file here. So everything you created earlier is sitting here in the results tab of our project. We can come back at any point, download these items. So you always have the ability to not only download the final image, but the bits and pieces you generate and the layers as you go along. That's a pretty awesome thing that Dzine does to keep everything accessible while you're working across multiple projects. So that should give you a pretty good idea of how to use Dzine AI. Now remember, you can always come back to this video if you need reference or more information to sort of refresh your memory. But I recommend checking out the link below so you can sign up and try out Dzine AI for yourself. This is a really powerful platform. The combination of AI tools with a design canvas is really awesome, and it's just, I think it's the next level on where things need to go if you want to get a more complete package when it comes to image generation and basic design. So check out Dzine AI. There's a link in the description. I highly recommend you give it a go. You can try it out for free. They have a free tier that you can stay on so you can still generate images. Some features aren't available for free, but most of them are pretty much there. So that's the video for today, guys. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please consider giving it a like. And if there's anything you want me to go more in depth on, leave a comment below. Maybe there's something I can do there. Otherwise, thanks for watching the video and enjoy your day. Hope to see you again soon. Take care.